So I became a Christian age 26. I moved into a shared house with my to-be wife, Sarah. And we had these late night conversations over wine. I was very against the church, against Christianity. And she was a Christian, but she wasn't going to church anywhere. And so we'd have these debates. And eventually I said, surely if you believe all this stuff, you should be going to church. And so she went to a church, she invited me along. Wasn't my cup of tea at all. It's one of these churches that all had their hands in the air, and there was a guy with a bowl of sweets at the door, and he had this sort of fixed smile, and I just thought, there's something in those sweets, don't eat the sweets. I don't want to be brainwashed. And then about a year later, she said, there's this thing called Alpha running at the local Church of England church. I thought, Church of England, you know where you are with the C of E. So I went along, and about 3 months after doing this Alpha course, became a Christian. Then about a year after, 2 years after, the vicar approached me and said, I'd like you to work for the church as an operations manager. And I said yes. I had all these questions from people, comments saying, have you thought about being ordained? And I said, absolutely not. It's not for me. I'm happy being a lay person working for the church. I actually really value lay ministry, and it's really important that people are encouraged to be lay leaders. That's just such an important part of church ministry. But after many years of trying to run away from the call, I eventually gave up and said yes to God. I felt called, but I just didn't think I could do it. Didn't feel I was up to it. And so we then moved house and moved away for 2 years. And then I was speaking to my spiritual director, and I said, do you know, this sense of call is not going away. And he said, well, you're going to have a conversation with Sarah. And we built this life together in another town. But later that day, I was doing the washing up, and she said to me, Ian, I think this whole ordination thing, I think maybe you should go for it. And I nearly dropped the plate as I was washing up, because obviously God was speaking to her as well as me about whether this was something I was called to. So I think anyone can be ordained, and often we got this perception that we don't have what it takes. I certainly thought that I wasn't from the right background, working class background, that I didn't have the skills or whatever. But that's not true. If God's calling you, he will equip you. And there's all sorts of ministries in the life of the church. Maybe he's calling you to be ordained, maybe he isn't. And it doesn't matter really, because all ministry is equal. Ordination is not the top of the tree. It's just a particular calling within the life of the church. I would say it's the best job out there. There are loads of surveys that are done every year about job satisfaction, and ministers, clergy are always towards the top. And the reason for that is that we get to walk alongside people who are beginning to explore faith, people who are at the beginning of their lives, people at the end of their lives. We get to interact with children in schools, at wakes, in all sorts of different contexts and settings. And it is the most profound privilege and honour and blessing in ministry that you can have.